You, I, and well, everyone else come from Source. And because of this, we actually have a direct line of communication with Source. But a lot of people kind of muddy up this line. A lot of people don't know how to communicate with Source because we weren't taught this. It's not something that we were taught in school. Maybe we should have been, but the fact of the matter is we were not. But we all have that connection deep inside of us and the ability to access it. So how do we access it? How do we speak to the Source and to the universe? That's what I'm going to be going over coming up next. Before we jump into it, my name is Dave. For those of you who are new to HeartSpace, and I'm creating videos every single day on this channel to help you along your heart path. And again, for me, that means just living a life that you love, loving being you in your life, excited every day to be who you are. Living the life that you're living. And wherever you are now, my mission is to help you get to that point. But without further ado, let's get into how you can start communicating with Source, how you can recognize these communications, and much more. One of the big issues to why so many people struggle with communicating with Source, or even believing that they can't, is because when we think of communication or talking or speaking, we think of it in the manner I'm doing right now. I'm speaking to you, you're hearing it, but although this is not beyond Source, this is not the language of the universe. It is not the language that Source typically uses. Again, it's not beyond Source, nothing is, but it's not what it typically uses. And the reason people struggle so much to communicate with Source and tap into that natural connection they have is because their expectation is it's going to happen this way, that Source is going to whisper words in their ear or communicate as clearly as I am to you through words. And it's because of these expectations that they create resistance around the actual communication that's happening around them. But they have tunnel vision expecting it's going to be words, it's going to be this, it's going to be complete sentences, all this kind of stuff, that they're missing everything else. They have blinders on to the way it actually works because they have these expectations and resistance coming from this place of expecting it to be like this. And this is because Source doesn't really work with appearances that much. Source works with energy. Source works with emotion, which simply means energy in motion if you break down that word. And that is how Source will typically, mainly for the most part, communicate with you. So how does this actually work? Well, simply put, the universe is communicating with you 24/7. But if you are cut off from your emotional guidance system, if you don't know how to use that, and again, many of us weren't taught, and we probably should have been, but we weren't, so here we are. But if you are cut off from your emotional guidance system and don't know how to make that work, then you are literally missing out on the communication that's coming to you all of the time and you can tap into at any moment if you truly want to. When we learn to clear the line of communication we naturally have with the universe, when we learn to kind of remove the gunk from that, then the messaging becomes much more clear. We don't have these expectations on how it should be and actually start tuning into what it actually is and how it is instead of trying to resist that. It's like having a stream. You have this natural stream that is flowing perfectly, and this is the stream of well-being. This is the stream of Source. And this is your direct communication with Source. But throughout the years, because we haven't been taught how Source actually communicates with us, and most of us, unless we have direct experience with this, don't understand it until we learn this, we kind of been gunking up this line of communication. We've been throwing trash into it and moss and so much that the flow has been cut off. Now, it can never be fully cut off, so a little bit will trickle through, and you'll have little moments where you think, oh, maybe is this a communication? Is this a whatever? But because it's so gunked up, it's not that clear, and it's not that easy to understand, it's not that easy to connect to. But when we let go of resistance, when we let go of needing to control how this communication is supposed to happen in our mind, we start clearing up this stream and making space for the universe to naturally communicate with us in the way it was always intended. And I already mentioned this, but the emotional guidance system is one of the greatest tools that Source gave us to interpret these communications. And the emotional guidance system obviously works with energy. And the simple way in which it does this is when you feel good about something, it is a communication that is something that will add to your life, that's something that will expand you, that's something to move towards. And when you feel dense or heavy about something, it is typically a communication of no, you shouldn't move towards that. That is heavy. It's like a red light. Another way to look at this is lightness and darkness, lightness being the green light, and the heaviness, the darkness, being the red light on whether you should move towards it or not. And there can be an occasional yellow light where the communication's a little unclear. You might need to meditate on it a little more. Maybe your stream's a little gunked up and you need to focus on, again, removing the expectations and clearing that up. But again, the universe will communicate in this way. It's not going to give you usually complete full sentences. You can find interpretations, and if you resonate with those interpretations, which means it's a green light on the interpretation, then you have a little more information. You can look at this for example, with things like angel numbers. But ultimately, when it comes to things in general, it's going to be a green light or a red light based on your emotional guidance system. You see, it isn't coincidental when you feel terrible about something. It isn't coincidental when you're angry or resistant or in shame or guilt when you're thinking about something or towards a certain situation. And it is not coincidental when you feel joy, excitement, bliss, happiness, abundance, whatever it is, towards another. That is feedback from the universe. That is communication from source about which is more beneficial to your life, which expands you and which contracts you. In fact, when you're in joy, you can literally feel expansion. It feels light and expansive. When you're in an emotion like shame or guilt or heaviness, it feels constrictive and like a contraction. Again, for those of you who are in the Miracle Meditation course, doing those meditations will give you more control over this, over your emotional guidance system. And what I mean is, it'll help you clear the stream so that your communication with source, the universe, is more clear, and your emotional guidance system isn't all gunked up. So you're very clear on what's heavy and what's light. And again, doing those consistently will help you to do that. And if you haven't gotten it already, again, it's for free down below. Just follow the link in the description. To wrap it up and keep it very simple, the basis of this is the universe and source is actually communicating with you 24/7. It communicates mainly through energy, through emotion, which is energy in motion. Most people have gunked up this communication, have gunked up the stream in which this communication comes through, and need to let go and remove resistance and this expectation that it needs to be a certain way, and then to listen to their emotional guidance system and where that is leading them, because that is the way, the most obvious way in my eyes, that the universe and source communicates with us. Now, this is one of the main ways that source communicates with us, but there are, of course, other things as well that we can look at. Certain signs like angel numbers, certain things like synchronicities coming into our environment. And if you want to learn about 10 of these signs and so many other things that kind of are communications and indicate certain things from the universe, then watch this video next. It's going to give you a whole thing and see which ones you resonate with, and to, again, use your emotional guidance system to take those on board or not, depending on how you feel about them. So I would suggest watching that next, and I'll see you over there.